The first $100,000 is a B word, but you have to do it. These are not my words. These are the words of the famous and slightly harsh advice of Charlie Munger, the right-hand man of Warren Buffett. Munger didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't say the first $100,000 was difficult or annoying. He said brutal, and he was right. Getting from 0 to 6 figures may be the hardest financial task you will ever undertake. This journey feels painfully slow. It makes you think the math is broken, and honestly, most people give up before ever getting there, because they don't understand that the rules of money change completely once you cross that line. If you are currently sitting at $10,000, $20,000, or maybe even a negative net worth, you probably feel like you are trying to push a giant boulder uphill. Today, I want to show you with raw math exactly why that feeling is valid. But more importantly, I want to explain the specific mechanics of why the next $1 million is actually easier than that first chunk. We will cover the snowball effect, the psychological trap that catches 90% of investors, and the exact roadmap you need to get your hands on that first $100,000. You will finally be able to take your foot off the gas. I'm owner, and I read the financial fine print so you don't have to. Let's look at the math and understand why the start is so incredibly hard. When Munger made this comment in the 90s, he was not saying that $100,000 was enough to retire on. Not even close. He wasn't talking about buying a Ferrari or living by the beach. Munger was talking about a threshold, a specific tipping point in the physics of money. He went on to say, do whatever you have to do, even if it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't bought with a coupon. Find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little. That last part is the key. You can ease off. Why? Because before that number, you are the engine. After that number, your money starts becoming the engine. Let's look at why the journey from $0 to $100,000 feels so slow, maybe even impossible. At its core lies a simple truth. When your portfolio is small, your contributions dominate the growth, not the market returns. Compounding is technically working, but it is invisible. Let's say you have $3,000 invested. A 10% return, which is a great year, gives you $300. Nice. Maybe it covers a few grocery runs, but it doesn't change your life. It doesn't make you feel wealthy. You could save that same $300 just by skipping a few dinners out. At this stage, every extra dollar you save matters far more than trying to squeeze an extra 1 to 2% out of the stock market. Bankrate ran a scenario that perfectly illustrates this pain. Let's say you invest $6,000 a year. That is $500 a month, and you earn a 7% annual return. At the end of year 5, you will have contributed a total of $30,000 in cash. Your portfolio balance will be around $34,500. Do the math. Only about $4,500 in growth. 85% of the money sitting there came from your own sweat, your paycheck, and your discipline. We grinded for 5 years, and the market barely earned us the price of a used car. This is the danger zone. This is where people look at their accounts and say, this isn't working. They see 5 years of sacrifice and almost no passive income to show for it, but they are missing the big picture. What usually causes people to fail here is not the math. It is the realization that you could have spent that money and had way more fun. After 5 years, you look at $4,000 in profit and think, I could have bought a better car or gone on vacation. But if you stop here, you are walking away right before the explosion happens. Because what comes next is not linear, it is exponential. And if you miss the next 3 years, you lose decades of freedom. So what changes at $100,000? The market doesn't change. The stocks are the same, but the math flips. When you have $100,000 invested, a 7% return means $7,000 in a single year. Now think about that. $7,000. For many people, that is more than they can physically save in an entire year. Suddenly your portfolio is contributing to your net worth as much as you are. You have effectively hired a second worker who shows up every day, doesn't complain, doesn't drink your coffee, and adds $7,000 to your pile without you lifting a finger. Let's go back to that Bankrate example. You are still investing $6,000 a year. After 20 years, you will have put in a total of $120,000 in cash. But your account balance is around $245,000. Over $125,000 of that is pure growth. The crossover point happens somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000. That is the moment where the money your money makes exceeds what you make. This is the snowball Munger was talking about. Munger described compound growth as a snowball rolling down a long hill. At the start, you have to push really hard to get it moving. That is the first $100,000. But once it has mass, gravity takes over. You are just steering it. 4-Pillar Freedom visualized this beautifully by slicing net worth into $100,000 chunks. They found that each subsequent $100,000 arrives faster than the last. Even if you never increase your monthly savings by a single cent, Getting from 0 to $100,000 can take 7 or 8 years. That is a long time. But going from $100,000 to $200,000 might only take 5 years. From 200 to 300 might take 3 years. When you are looking at big numbers, you are adding $100,000 to your net worth every couple of years just by waking up in the morning. This brings us to a controversial idea. Many people think the hardest milestone is becoming a millionaire. That sounds the most impressive. But mathematically, the gap between $0 and $100,000 is infinitely harder than the gap between $100,000 and $1 million. To reach the first 6 figures, if you start with $1,000, you need to multiply your starting wealth by 100. To get from 6 figures to $1 million, you only need a 10x return. The heavy lifting is already done, but there is a hidden enemy that makes the first phase even worse than the math suggests. On top of the mathematical layer that turns the first phase into a meat grinder, there is a psychological layer. At the start, you are fighting on 2 fronts: external barriers and internal barriers. Externally, this is usually when your income is at its lowest. You may be dealing with student loans early in your career or paying high rent relative to your salary. When every dollar counts, saving a few hundred a month feels like a punishment. You are actively lowering your quality of life today for a future that doesn't feel real. Meanwhile, your portfolio isn't big enough to give you any dopamine hits. You check your account and it's flat. It feels pointless. Internally, you haven't built the identity of an investor yet. You can easily tell yourself a story. I'm not good with money. This is too slow. I'll deal with this when I make more money. Bankrate calls these the psychological obstacles that keep you from your first $100,000. You have to push through a 5 to 7 year phase where discipline matters far more than returns. But here is the good news. By the time you hit $100,000, you will be a different person. You will have built the catalysts. You will have seen the math work. You have probably survived a market dip or two without panic selling. You aren't just richer, you are harder to kill. Recent financial writers have started calling the $100,000 mark the wealth acceleration point. It is the specific level of capital that flips your growth mix from mostly savings to mostly compounding. An article I read recently put it bluntly. The first $100,000 you save is not just a milestone. It is the point that 90% of the population never reaches. If you can get there, you have effectively filtered yourself out of the majority who live paycheck to paycheck. You have crossed the chasm. The wind is finally at your back. So how do you actually do it? We know the math is bad at the start and the psychology is brutal. So how do you really make it happen? How do you accelerate without ruining your life, as Munger suggested? There is a very specific playbook for this, and it involves ignoring almost all the advice you hear about picking stocks or timing the market. In this phase, optimization is the enemy. Here is the brute force strategy. Step 1. Accept that this phase is savings-driven, not return-driven. For Pillar Freedom ran the numbers and showed that in the first 7 years, your investment return, whether it is 5% or 10%, barely changes how long it takes to reach $100,000. The only variable that matters is how much cash you shove into the machine. This means you don't need to stress about finding the perfect ETF or the next crypto. That is a distraction. Your job right now is boring: a high savings rate, avoiding stupid consumer debt, and maximizing your income. You cannot out-invest a low savings rate with a small balance. Step 2. Treat this like a non-negotiable mission. Do you remember Munger's line about walking everywhere and using coupons? He didn't mean you should literally starve. He meant you need to be willing to be temporarily extreme for a specific period of time to get the snowball rolling. This season of sacrifice will not last forever. That is the key mental shift. You are not signing up for a lifetime of misery. You are signing up for a 3 to 5 year sprint to build a foundation that will serve you for the next 50 years. If you can lock in a 40 to 50% savings rate while you are young or before lifestyle creep sets in, you can cut that 7-year slog down to 3 or 4 years. The hardest part of going from $0 to $100,000 is that your income is usually at its lowest point, so you have to pull every lever available. People who reach this number fast usually do 3 things. First, they aggressively increase income through job hopping or side hustles. Second, they keep their lifestyle fixed even when they get a raise. They don't move into the luxury apartment the moment they get a promotion. Third, they dump every single windfall, tax refunds, bonuses, birthday money, straight into the market. They don't treat that money as fun money. They treat it as bricks for the fortress they are building. I can hear some of you shouting right now. Owner Charlie Munger said this 30 years ago. $100,000 isn't what it used to be. Inflation has killed this advice. You are partially right, but mostly wrong. The specific number has changed. Adjusted for inflation, Munger's $100,000 is probably closer to $200,000 or $250,000 today. But the principle is timeless. The physics haven't changed. Whether your number is $100,000, $200,000, or $50,000, The shape of the curve is the same. The first meaningful chunk of capital is always the hardest because it relies entirely on you. You can pick your own hard number based on your cost of living. Maybe for you, the snowball starts rolling at $50,000. The point isn't the digit on the screen, it is reaching the velocity where your money starts working harder than you do. Don't use inflation as an excuse not to start. If the finish line moved further away, that is just more reason to start running today. To wrap this up, I want to give you a simple mental model to carry with you. Think of your wealth journey in 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 is the muscle phase. This is $0 to $100,000. The reality here is that returns don't matter much. Your job is to build the muscles of budgeting, saying no to consumerism, and increasing your income. Your mindset should be, this feels unfairly hard, and that is normal. Phase 2 is the snowball phase. This is $100,000 to $500,000. Compounding becomes visible here. Your job is to stay invested and not break the machine you built. Phase 3 is the acceleration phase. $500,000 and above. Here, your portfolio moves by tens of thousands of dollars on a random Tuesday. This is where you have earned the right to rebalance your life versus your money. If you are in Phase 1, don't get discouraged by the lack of progress. You are building the foundation of a skyscraper. Of course, you can't see it above ground yet. You worked so hard to reach $10,000, then $20,000. Those weren't pointless. Those were the training arcs. Now pushing to $100,000 flips the script. It is the gateway to the world where money is a tool, not a master. Munger was right. It is a B** word. But it is the most important B word you will ever conquer. Friends, if you liked the video, you can like and subscribe. I post regular videos every day. Please take care of yourselves. See you in the next one.